Hi, good morning. So, in this session, we are going to learn about a few rules related to grammar and how to use how to approach this test of SAT grammar, the writing test. So, we'll do this test together and also learn some rules. So, here we have test 8 of uh, SAT, and we are going to learn a few concepts related to grammar with the help of this. Let's jump straight into the question. So this first question, as I can see, so whenever you approach a question, you should read the options first, and then you can go about deciding the strategy with respect to the passage. Like for example, here we have got a question which is looks like a discourse marker. However, furthermore, for example, let's try to understand the passage. Over the past generation, people in many parts of the United States have become accustomed to dividing their household waste products into different categories. So here it talks about dividing the products into different categories or waste products into different categories for recycling. Now let us understand what is the context. Regardless, paper may go into one container, glass and aluminum into another. It sounds like an example. So the best discourse marker or transition would be to tell that what is going to follow, and that is of course an example. So we go with for example. The nature of this question was to understand the context and then go for the best transition. Now transition is moving from one thought to another thought or one theme to other theme. So here the theme was introduction of a concept, and then from that we moved on to give an example. That is why, for example, is the best choice here. Okay, let's go to the next question now. Now again, I'll read the question and the options first before I go for solving it. Which choice best maintains the style and tone of the passage? Now, when you say style and tone, which means we want to maintain a consistent style, so whatever was going on earlier has to follow. No change, eliminating, ousting, closing the doors. Let me see. So basically, I have to select one word. This is the question here. So let me read a little bit of, I'll expand my window of reference a little bit to answer this. When utilized as a garden fertilizer, compost provides us, so they're talking about compost, provides nutrients to soil and improves plant growth while deterring or killing pests. Okay, so the advantages of compost are being said and they are all in present tense. While deterring or killing pests and preventing some plant diseases, it also enhances soil texture, encouraging healthy roots and minimizing or annihilating the need for annihilation is complete destruction of something, like the fire annihilated the building. So something related to fire, something related to some kind of accident is annihilation. So what would the right word be? It's a question of diction. It's a diction question. So eliminating looks like a better choice, not ousting. Ousting is like removing someone from some position. The king was ousted by the subordinate. Closing door on also does not look very idiomatic. So eliminating the need for looks like a better choice. Eliminating the need for chemical fertilizers. That looks better. Okay, let's go to the next one. Better than soil at holding moisture, compost minimizes water waste and storm runoff. It increases. So if I have to maintain the same structure, better than this, so this is a modifier. This is the modifier, which is modifying compost and then telling further things about it. Better than soil at holding moisture, compost. So compost is better than soil. It does these things: minimizes water waste and storm runoff, increases savings. Increases savings looks like a better choice because that goes parallel with minimizes water waste, increases savings on all these things, increases savings. Where's that? Increases savings. on waste on watering cost and help reduce erosion on embankments near bodies of water. In large quantities, which one would expect to see. So what should be the thing here? Let me read the whole sentence. Is large quantities which one would expect to see when it is collected for an entire municipality, and there is a closing bracket here. And I don't have a choice of not using this closing bracket. So I would rather go with an option which has got an opening bracket, which is this. So let me see whether it makes sense. Or this. Should I use a semicolon? So I've got these two options. This closing bracket gives me a clue that I have to go either with B or D, because these are the two which I've got an opening bracket. And let me see which one makes sense. You can pause and you can try it yourself, and then you can go about knowing the answer. In large quantities, uh, this is not a complete sentence. So for semicolon, the rule is that you should have two complete sentences to be separated. So this does not make sense. The answer is B. Let me just read it to reconfirm. In large quantities, I'll put a comma here and then start a bracket, which one would expect to see when it is collected for an entire municipality, and the bracket closes. Compost can be converted into natural gas that can be used as fuel for transportation or heating and cooling systems. So this makes sense. I'll go with B. Okay, let's go to the next question and understand what kind of question is this. Oh, they've given some numbers. If I look at question number 5 and the options, there are some numbers, which means there has to be some kind of graph. Let me see. Oh, we have a graph here. And what does the graph say? So I'm a little curious to know what this graph is telling before I go to the question. So type of waste. Oh, so they have given the type of waste, and the y-axis says amount of waste. All right, so this is amount of waste. This is type of waste, and in million tons. All right, so I can see food waste is the highest, and the other one, rubber and leather, is the lowest, and they are in the range from 7 to 35 million tons. All right, and this is some agency telling about, yeah, in 2009. So this is the year. Okay, so this is the data about it. Let me see what the question says. Now, it says the writer wants to include information from the graph that is consistent with the description. All right, so what is it saying? Let me see. In spite of all the compost potential uses, however, most of this so-called waste is wasted. According to Environmental Protection Agency, over 13 million tons of metal 13 million tons of metal ended up in soil. So, okay, this is the clue. Let me look at metal. Where does metal fall? So, metal is here. And is it 13 million? Yeah, 13 million of this falls. Okay, let me see. So, 31 millions of metal ended up in US landfills in 2009, along with 13 million tons of yard debris. So, if yard debris is 13 million, then metal is here, and yard waste is 13. So metal is a little, yeah, metal is almost equal. So yard waste is also 13, and this one is also 13. As you can see, this is 10, this is 15. So they are almost equal, which is this. So it seems to be right to me. Let me see. So I don't have any other option. 10 million tons of textile, 33 million tons of food waste. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, over this million tons of metal uh, ended up in US landfill in this, along with 13 million tons of yard debris. Thirty-three million tons of food waste. What is the question? Wants to include information from the graph that is consistent with the description of compost. Now, description of compost. From the perspective of compost, as I see, the food waste makes more sense. Let me see. if I go to the fourth option, there's 33 million tons. Yeah, so from that perspective, let me read the question. I've got two options which are correct. This is also right. And of course, if I go to this, 30 million tons of metal, that also seems to be correct. So this is more of a context question, not a factually incorrect question, incorrect or correct thing. All those things are right. If I look at rubber, rubber is almost 6 million. So all of them are factually correct. As you can see, this rubber is here, rubber is here. Rubber and leather is almost 6 million. So if I look at the factually correct information, all of them are right. What we're looking for is something which is related to the context of compost. So this is more of a context question, and from the perspective of context, from the perspective of making compost, it is the food waste which constitutes the compost. And from that perspective, D looks like a better choice. This was a little tricky, I would say, because we have, I mean, it's tempting to go with the option which is there. That's what I was thinking. But then when I looked at all other options, I found that, oh, this was more related to context than everything else. Great. So let's go to the next question. Question 6, what does it say? Wants to support the paragraph's main idea. All right, so main idea is about composting, that the food which is wasted can be used for making compost. Relevant information from the graph. Which choice most effectively accomplishes this? All right, so let me see. Even worse than the squandering of this useful resource is the fact that, even worse, I'm looking at the sixth question. Remarkably less glass was discarded in landfills that year than any other substance. Actually, it is food. I remember food was the one which was at the highest. So not less glass was, the glass as at glass is at this point. So it's not less than food. Food is the highest. So I'll say more food was wasted. More food waste, which is factually correct. So this was factual information. And of course, related to the context as well. So as we can see in writing, this is the point I wanted to make. In writing, we get questions which are related to the context, which are similar to reading comprehension as well as grammar. So that's where people really find it a little difficult, because you're supposed to take care of both the things, grammar as well as content. So it's like a mix of reading comprehension and grammar. Okay, let's quickly go to the next question. The next question seems to be that of idiomatic choice. THAN and THEN. This is called as vertical reading. Rather than reading horizontally, you can see the things vertically. So you know what options, what kind of things you are, what kind of decisions you are supposed to make. You're supposed to make a decision related to comma and THAN and THEN. So let's quickly read the question. Even worse than, so I'm sure it is THAN, and after worse, there's no need of comma, so I go with B. This seems to be my first preference. Just to test it, I'll read it. Even worse than squandering of this useful side. I'm sure it's not really very much important to put a comma there. Even worse than squandering of this useful resource is the fact that compost in landfills cannot break down due to the lack of necessary air and moisture. Okay, fine. As a result, organic material that is sent to landfills, organic material is the subject here. Organic material, this is singular, so contributes. Organic material that is sent to, so this was subject verb agreement question, where I have my knowledge of grammar is tested. All right. So contributes is the right choice because organic material is singular. Very potent greenhouse gas. Now this is potent, and the options here are sturdy, influential, commanding. Ninth question is related to word choice. And potent looks good, contributes to release of methane. Now this is a qualifier or a modifier. Potent greenhouse gas. So it's a potent, not influential, not sturdy, not commanding. So I would go with A. Okay. While composting can sometimes lead to this, now let me understand what kind of question is this. Oh, they have got some other options. So what am I supposed to do? Which choice provides the most effective transition from the previous paragraph? So what was there in the previous paragraph? Oh, they have some data. So from data, if I have to transition to something, the paragraph like this one ends with this data. So they have some data points there with them. I would rather say through government regulations vary armed with these facts looks like a good choice. Let me see whether it goes. Armed with these facts, cities such as San Francisco and Seattle have instituted mandatory composting laws requiring individuals and businesses. So fine, these facts do tell us that so much food is wasted. So why not turn it into compost? So armed with these facts look like a good choice for this one. So this was a transition question, and for this we need to be aware of the context. Interesting. And let me look at the last question now. So what is it? Nor, but, and. So nor, but, and. I have to use certain word here. I don't have to read this whole thing. I can just read the sentence because this seems more like a grammar question. However, given the clear benefits of composting and the environmental cost of not composting, all municipalities should encourage the residents either. So either is there, which means with either or looks good. Either to create their own compost piles for use in backyard gardens or to depose of compostable material in bins for collection. Either two or two. So these are the two options with the people. I would not say either and nor, either and but, either and, either and or looks the best choice. So this was a grammar question. Let me just quickly sum up and see what kind of questions do we get there. So this will give us an idea and a little gist of the kind of questions. There is a context questions and as you can see, this was not really directly related to grammar. They test your writing skills and editing skills. So you have to think like an editor. So for example, this was not really a grammar question, but writing, how you compose your ideas and whether it is cohesive or not. So that was the thing tested here. The second question was related to diction, which is like the choice of words. So certain vocabulary, knowledge of words or vocabulary is important. I'd say vocabulary. Third one is parallel structures, increases savings, and I'll just go to the question for clarity. Compost minimizes water waste and storm runoff, increases savings. So it is a parallel structure, a little bit related to grammar and understanding the tone. So I'll say tone also, the way it is said. So you maintain a parallel or a consistent tone throughout the passage. The fourth one, in large quantities, which one could, so this was again a little bit of knowledge of grammar. We are using a bracket. So if there's a closing bracket, there has to be an opening bracket. So this was not, yeah, I would say grammar. The next question is related to context, where we have to understand the context and read the graph. This one was tricky because all the questions options are factually correct. We have to match with the context. So there are questions related to context. And this is what I was pointing at. In SAT grammar test or writing test, you've got varieties of questions. A few of them are aimed at testing your knowledge of grammar. A few of them are aimed at testing your knowledge of context. So you have to be right, like focusing on both the things. And yeah, that's important. The writer wants to support the paragraph's main idea. So again, this was context and we have to read it was factual information. It's more like a reading comprehension question. If you look at question number 6. 7 is a grammar question or a word choice, frequently confused words, THAN and THEN, and a little bit of grammar whether we should use comma or not. The eighth question is subject verb agreement. So we have to identify the subject and answer the question. So it is again related to grammar, I would say. So as you can see, there are a collection of questions from grammar, some from context, some from data. That's what makes this test a little interesting, I would say, not or challenging. So you have to take this challenge and do your best. Sometimes you have to focus on data. Like for example, this question was again interesting. This was a transition question. So the references in the previous paragraph. Since the previous paragraph, the last thing they said was some data. So from the taking reference from that graph here, what you should do is, or you should choose the answer option which is related to that graph. So armed with these facts is the right choice there. And the last one is either or, neither nor, something related to grammar. I hope this was interesting and informative for you. What just to sum up, when you are doing the writing test, think about the context, think about the grammar rules, classify the question. What type of question is it? Is it testing some grammar rule or some kind of context? If it is related to context, expand your window of information and read 2-3 lines to decide what kind of answer would suit there and go for the best option. Sometimes all the options would be factually correct, but you have to look for the context, which particular fact is most important in that context. All the best to you. You can reach out to me at +91 987 100 1015 for any kind of help. All the very best to you. Thank you.